you found Jesus yet?
Hello, my childreneth. Clerics are Sunday school fanatics that derive their magic power from insert religion here guild. Liches are unholy abominations that go against the will of God by refusing to ever step foot in the great retirement home up in the sky. But can we make these two widely different concepts coexist, bumper sticker? Trick question, yes we can, because D&D has done it before, and we're gonna try our hand at it and make our own cleric lich. I'm Antonio D'Amico, this is Pointy Hat, and we'll be doing just that in this brand new episode of Which Lich? Cleric Edition. So yes, addressing the undead elephant in the room, there is a cleric lich, sorta. I said this hot take before in the very first video in this Make a Lich series we've got going on in this channel. Oh, how young and naive we once were. What? That was just a year ago? What? I forget that I've been doing this for like 5 minutes. It feels like forever. This channel is still so new. Okay, anyway, I did mention that there. So why am I making a new one? Well, let's get into this official cleric lich and find out more. The Clich, working title, I'll come up with something better, I'm sure, in question is the Mummy Lord.
Mommy? Sorry.
The Mummy Lord has never been billed as a lich. Nobody has sat there in official books saying this is a cleric lich. Liches, in fact, regular old boring official liches, can be clerics. They just are wizards 90% of the time. See my first video of the series to find out more. The reason why I say that Mummy Lords as they are in D&D make for much better glitches, God, is because they feel much more like a marriage between a lich and a cleric, which is what we do in this series. Mummy Lords have their own off-brand phylacteries, an object that brings them back from death and into undeath, just like liches. In the Mummy Lord's case, this was their heart, making it a literal jar of heart.
Collecting a jar of hearts.
This is also done through spooky DIY ritual, just like liches, but this ritual is explicitly said to be religious in nature, so cleric liches. They are powerful spellcasters, just like liches, but they also have been hitting that church gym because they're packing an 18 in strength, literally the same as their spellcasting ability score. They're on those holy roids or something, which ties with clerics being able to be armored melee fighters or pure spellcasters. Mummy Lords differ from liches in that there's nothing in the text that forces them to maintain their undeath in any way. In fact, they're just evil because the stat block says so, I guess. Nothing about the ritual seems particularly evil other than it involves evil powers? I don't know, man, this is also vague. Mummy Lords don't have to keep consuming souls, so not like liches, but kinda like old school liches. Also, fun fact, for those that know this series and know how much I like making people into phylacteries, there's examples of Mummy Lords doing just that. Neat. Anyway, whatever, that's not the point. So, if Mummy Lords feel like cleric liches, why would I be making a new one? Well, the reasons are, much like my talent, multifaceted and complex. The first is that cleric is my favorite class, along with bard, and I like them, and I want to make my own. That's reason enough for me. But I got others. The second reason is that there is a reason why I had to explain that Mummy Lords were cleric liches. It's not like that's a super well-known thing, or that it's ever mentioned. Other than some text calling the Canopec jar, the jar of hearts, a phylactery, there's no explicit mention that I can find of them being referred to as such. I think a monster that is billed as a cleric lich first and foremost would do the game good, especially seeing as traditional boring D&D liches can be clerics. Third and final reasons why we need a cleric lich, mummies are super tropey, like really tropey. I like that about them. And yes, before you tell me, I know that many cultures other than Egyptian have made and continue to make mummies. But boy, is the D&D one super clearly Egyptian. If you want the Egyptian flavor, that's great. But it's not like all D&D clerics are worshipping Egyptian gods or have an Egyptian aesthetic. Yes, you can just make a Mummy Lord and strip it of its flavor, but wouldn't it be better to have a cleric lich concept that is flavored after D&D clerics, if that's what you want, a cleric lich, and not specifically mummies? I think it would be, so I'm making one. Also, Mummy Lords don't follow my lich recipe, and who doesn't want a complete set of liches to smash together like action figures over a table? So how are we making it? Well, since our last lich, the monk lich, broke Pointy Hat tradition, what if we rejected modernity with this one? What if we took inspiration from a super established typical D&D thing? Hear me out, cults. Is there a more D&D plot device than cults? The evil, spooky cult is trying to bring back whatever evil god the DM has fixated enough to read the wiki article on. 7 out of 10 times, this ends up being Tiamat. D&D has had you fighting cultists since D&D became a thing, really. And here's the thing, I love cults. In theory. Not like that. Don't clip that. I think that cults are interesting because they are like a real thing that happens in real life, and they are a deeply emotionally complicated problem to deal with. Like, they are a true evil that breaks families apart. They destroy people's psyches, they prey on people's weaknesses and the human need of belonging to an in-group. They strip people of a support system and replace it with one that is conditional to them belonging to a cult. They take advantage of established religious conventions and convictions to indoctrinate new members. Cults are like really scary and really damaging in real life. Do they feel that way in D&D? I mean, not in a single game I've played or adventure I've read. So what if we did that? What if we took this extremely established D&D trope of spooky cult and gave it the pointy hat twist by adding liches into the mix? That sounds like a good time to me. Let's make it happen. How? Well, with our pointy hat trademark do not steal lich recipe, of course. Let's make it different this time. In order for a lich to be a pointy hat lich, it must 1. Go through a spooky ritual that is hard to do but not impossible so that players can get their PhD in lichdom if they are edgy enough. 2. Deliberately choose to become a beef jerky undead abomination. No, I was forced to be a lich allowed. 3. Must store their soul in 1 or more soul cookie jars out of reach of children. And finally, but most importantly, they need to somehow maintain their current state of not dead or alive. They can't just be undead forever without pulling themselves up by their rope straps and putting in the work to make that happen. They need to work for undeath. Okay, record-breaking pointy hat lich recipe rundown because I want to get to it. Let's make a cleric lich. Oh, but we can't forget about the whole potion thing either. Traditional liches are actually made by ingesting an extremely powerful poisonous potion that kills the lich to be and primes their body for the lichifying process. But that can't be the only legendary potion. There are whispers that the truly powerful ones, those that can change not just the drinker but everything around them, come from a famed tavern. The Many Worlds Tavern, the sponsor of this video. Many Worlds Tavern is an online coffee, tea, and gaming company that offers you the aforementioned coffee and tea, over 20 different types of coffees and teas in fact. And honestly, is that not just the best holiday gift right now? Let me tell you, their Treasured Realm and Fabled Foliage boxes include not just coffee or tea respectively, but also a set of dice and a D&D 5e compatible magic item. Imagine that gift for the nerds in your life. Imagine that gift for you, a nerd who is also in your life. By default, they cover basically every single one of your needs for coffee, but instead of boring names like dark roast or medium roast or roast, they have stuff like Great Old One, Dragon's Nest, Electric Sheep for decaf, and instant coffee versions of each. And the same amount of variety is there for tea, with even specifically seasonal teas. They are loose leaf, which you know that means it's good, and they come in black, green, white, and botanical, which look, I'm not a tea person, but I would drink a flower. I mean, astral bloom floral tea with mint notes? That's magical to me. And what makes it so good for the season is that they donate a portion of their proceeds to charity. Perfect for the holidays. So if all of this sounds like a good deal, go check them out now. Your ticket to the Many Worlds Tavern is the very first link in the description. Can't miss it. And now that we're suitably potioned up, let's get to actually making this lich guy. Okay, so you know how we do it around here? We gotta distill the essence of the cleric and add it to our lich recipe. I know I want to use cults in it, but I wouldn't say that cults are the essence of clerics. So what is the essence du cleric?
Essence du cleric.
Well, to me, it's belief. Paladins can be kinda sorta cleric coded in that they can worship a god if they feel like, but they get their magic by committing to an oath. Clerics get their magic through belief and worship. Most often a god, although D&D insists on reminding us that clerics can be clerics if they believe in a domain? Hard enough? Whatever, I'm doing the god thing, but this is compatible with the alternative. Both of these are about belief and about worship. And that to me is what divine magic is about. Belief and devotion. So, if we want to use the cleric essence of belief and devotion, and we want to use cults for our lich, what does that look like? Well, how about we focus on the emotional reason why cults are a thing to unlock all that potential we talked about. Cults work by worming their way into people's psyche and targeting very human impulses. Belief, worship, the need for community, those are the emotional reasons behind people joining a cult. I think that to unlock the true storytelling potential that using a cult, and more specifically this lich, brings to your story, we need to 100% focus on those emotional reasons that make cults so terrifying to deal with. But there's a final piece to this puzzle. Cult of personality. A cult of personality is, you could call it a type of cult, but many cults include aspects of it. When a cult revolves around an extremely charismatic leader, and the members of the cult blindly believe in that leader's power and righteousness about as much as whatever religious doctrine the cult tells tells them to believe, the techniques to create a cult of personality are probably in place. A concerted effort has happened, either by propaganda, manipulation, or whatever other means, to make a group of people devote themselves not only to whatever the cult wants them to accomplish or believe, but to the leader of that cult. Devotion and belief, the cleric essence, applied to a single person that leads a cult of people to achieve their own means. Sounds like a cleric lich to me. Let's make it. The journey to become an Apotheosis always begins with kindness. Clerics that strive towards lichdom will be the ones that most zealously commit themselves to charity, to almsgiving, to philanthropy. The goal is to become a pillar in the communities they inhabit, and to pass on their message at the time where people are most susceptible to hear it. An Apotheosis cannot exist without followers, because belief and devotion are what makes an Apotheosis existence possible. But the cleric knows how hard it is for a group of people to truly devote themselves to servicing someone else, which is why the Apotheosis is a cleric in the first place. Kindness, charity, and most importantly religion are the Trojan horses that a cleric wishing for lichdom uses to form a cult. The god or domain they worship is a means to an end. They add one key ingredient to the doctrine they teach their followers, the cleric themselves. The Apotheosis to be will position themselves as the key and the only way to truly worship the chosen god. Without the Apotheosis guiding hand, without the shepherd to lead the sheep, the believers would be helpless, their worship fruitless, their prayers unanswered. And so, a cult is born. A cult with a religious belief and a leader to guide them. The cleric will then work towards entrenching themselves further and further as the sole authority in the cult, and, slowly but surely, shift more and more of the cult's focus from worshipping a god to worshipping the cleric. Once the cult is devoted in mind, body, and soul to the cleric, the ritual may begin. A lich cannot be a lich in life, and so the cleric will end theirs in a ritual alongside their most trusted cultist. These cultists themselves play a key part in said ritual, as theirs is the sacrifice that will actually empower the ritual. The rest of the cult, however, does not sit idly by. The reason why the cleric needs to spend so much time manipulating their flock into worshipping the cleric is because the cult must believe, without a shred of doubt, that their leader will come back to life. Belief by the cult that their leader is immortal is, in and of itself, what makes the cleric lich immortal. If enough people believe the cleric lich to be immortal, the cleric alone will rise again from the ritual as an Apotheosis, a true lich. An Apotheosis will never truly die as long as enough people believe them to be immortal. Their worshippers are their phylactery, and they are referred to as martyrs. Upon learning what it takes to create an Apotheosis, one might think that only those clerics devoted to evil deities can ever become such monsters. But there are many stories of clerics devoted to neutral or even good gods that achieved Apotheosis. There's even whispers among the highest echelons of the most powerful churches that some gods themselves have assisted in the creation of an Apotheosis of their own religion. After all, once one is created, that ensures that there is an undying cleric highly motivated to spread the worship to the god they choose, potentially forever. The perfect tool to grow a god's influence further and higher than any other. Lich Pope! What do you think about that? It definitely uses the extremely established D&D staple that is cults, but I tried to make it way more about what the mechanics of actually creating a cult and what happens to people within, rather than just the dragon lady god shows up at the end of the campaign. Also, belief as a source of power for the cleric lich? I mean, what else could it be other than that, right? And martyrs being its phylactery, their own believers, since they're the ones that will actually believe in them being immortal. A lich that is immortal because people believe it to be, and the possibility of them coming from an evil or a good god? Some might think, how could a good god be okay with this sacrifice? But, you know, I can think of one pretty popular real life one that was very much okay with a sacrifice. Or many. I mean, I personally love stuff like this, but being real here, this is 100% my wheelhouse. Religious drama gives me like a +10 on making stuff like this. But all of this means nothing if we can't add it to your games. And as I always say, a monster is not a good monster unless players can use it in their own backstories. So how about we make a player character using the Apotheosis? And since we're going so hard on this cult thing, how about someone in a cult? Adria will tell you that the only reason he's alive today is because of the House of Mercy. Prior to meeting him, he was a drunk, a thug, and a criminal, with absolutely no intent on changing any of the three. When a hit job he was involved in went south and he was at death's door, it was the First Mercies, the on-the-ground helpers of the House of Mercy, that picked him up and carried him to the house. But it was Mother Misericordia that administered and oversaw his healing. Adria had never met a single one of the people that he had gone on hit jobs for before. But the leader of the House of Mercy seemed to find time to see him, heal him, talk to him. She seemed to find time for everyone in the House of Mercy. She knew everyone's names, and even behind the plain mask adorned with nothing but golden tears, he felt Mother Misericordia kindly smiling at him. It's during this recovery process that Adria learned of the worship that goes on in the House of Mercy, how they refuse to take any donations other than to redistribute them amongst those that need it most, how they helped during the displacement of people that happened during the war 10 years ago, how they were the ones to rebuild the hospital that burned down during the fire last year, and all under the merciful hand of Mother Misericordia. Without her resolve and her tireless watch over her followers and the city, the House of Mercy would be powerless. When Adria was healed, nobody had to offer him to stay within the House of Mercy. Adria asked for himself. From thug and hitman, he became a first mercy. And in time, Mother Misericordia offered him a position as a last mercy, the only armed contingent of the House of Mercy, sent on special jobs to strike those that endeavor to deny the House of Mercy succor. He's met the party in one of those jobs, and as a true member of the House of Mercy, he has agreed to help them on his way to his destination. Adria has never managed to be the sanctimonious type, and the House of Mercy has never asked him to be one. He laughs the loudest when swapping stories at the camp, and will be the first in the party to go for a round of drinks at every tavern they pass. He shares his past experiences with the party, and in his own, perhaps clumsy way, tries to turn them into teachable moments for those willing to hear it. But now, Adria fights for something worth fighting for, never refusing to give mercy to anyone that deserves it, and always willing to lend a hand to his new party members. Adria has thus become an integral part of the adventuring group, but what will the party do when the inevitable reveal of Mother Misericordia's identity as an Apotheosis is made clear to them? How will the party manage to reach through Adria and make him realize who he truly has been serving? Can they break through the man's blind devotion and belief? Can they make him realize that a last mercy, the group that Adria belongs to, is just another name for hitman? How can you break someone out of a place they do not wish to leave? I don't know, but it sure sounds like an insanely cool and poignant thing to roleplay and go through at the table. This is what I meant by using cults and stories to show exactly how insidious they can be from an emotional standpoint. Which, as I said, I don't think that you see that much in D&D at all. This is big roleplay hours, none of, because the evil wizard '' killed my grandma here. But what about DMs? What does the Apotheosis look like in a campaign? And yes, I'm zeroing in on the cult aspect yet again, with some trademark pointy hat tough moral choices. Let's go. Nella is the resident favorite NPC of the party. They first met in the Derelicts, the seedy underbelly of Fantasy City, working title, where Nella runs her shop of trinkets, magical oddities, and signature pies. She has 7 grown kids that all work around her shop, either helping with the magical stuff or with the pies. And after the party helped her get rid of some mutated rats that had been eating the leftover magical pies, the party and Nella became great friends. Nella even gave the party a portable oven that connects through a micro-teleportation portal to the oven in her own shop, so she's been able to sell them healing potions and even pies while the party's on the road. But Nella and her children are part of Fantasy Oppressed Group, working title. A group of people that are severely mistreated in Fantasy City, working title, just by virtue of belonging to said group. This is why she's forced to operate in the Derelicts and not in the city proper, and the group situation is only getting worse. Vindictive taxation, guard raids, even outright brutality are more and more common, and the new government runs on a platform of further oppressing all members of Fantasy Oppressed Group, working title. But those belonging to said group have not sat idly by. Those that belong to the group have been using the only temple in the Derelicts to meet, since the city allows them to meet only for religious reasons. Their pastor, a kindly old man who has been serving the community for decades, has allowed these meetings out of a religious sense of duty, but he's no leader. The true leaders are people like Nella, and they have hatched a plan. A desperate plan, but a plan they believe will allow them to ensure that they are not wiped out by the city's rulers. They plan on making the pastor an Apotheosis, the leaders using their souls as fuel for the ritual. With an Apotheosis power on their side, they may actually be able to defend themselves against the city. But in the event that they are wiped from existence, their destruction would not mean their end, since the Apotheosis will rise again to defend the remaining members of the oppressed group. Nella is asking the party for one last favor. Help them accomplish the ritual to create an Apotheosis at the cost of her and the other leaders' lives. Will the party be able to actually help their friend sacrifice herself for this? Are they okay with being complicit in the creation of a lich? Or will they leave the group to their own devices, potentially ensuring that the ritual cannot be accomplished? What happens with the group then? I guess you can answer that question, because not only is the Apotheosis up for 100% certified free, but also the Arcane Codex in PDF form is free alongside the physical codex. What? Yes, important news, stay around, important. So, We've sold a terrifying amount of my collection. I cannot believe it. I cried. Real tears may have happened. Thank you. My merch guy has never seen these numbers. I don't know what I've done to deserve this. So, to celebrate the insane launch of the Arcane Collection, we're making it so that everyone that pre-orders the Arcane Codex, the physical codex, physical book, gets the PDF for free. At least while this sale lasts. I'm still working out the details because there's a sale going on right now. After that, these two will be sold separately. But if you get it now, you get the discounted price because the book is on sale. And you get the PDF thrown in for free. If you have bought an order and it has a codex in it, your order will get the PDF version too for 100% certified Pointy Hat free. I wanted to celebrate the collection, so there it is. PDF only version coming. Not soon, so grab the deal now. And while you're there, go grab the Apotheosis, the cleric lich. It's also there for 100% certified Pointy Hat free. And now that you have, soon you will be praying for my continued undeath, enshrining me as a god amongst men. But if you want more liches, since monk and priests and clerics are kind of the same thing, why not check out our monk lich? And if wisdom is not your stat of choice, but you still want liches, how about strength? That's right, there's a barbarian lich. Thank you for coming, my flock. And now, all rise. Amen. Mwah.